Joy Falanchik. I know you guys know who I am. But I was saved on April 10th, 2021, and I want to testify on how Jesus has completely changed my life and has completely and amazingly transformed me from the inside out. My whole life, I've grown up in a Christian home, and I had a head knowledge of Jesus, and I knew the basics of what the Bible said, and like I never doubted the existence of God. But for almost my whole life before I was saved, I didn't have a personal relationship with Christ, and I testified as a Christian, as being one, but I didn't really take it very seriously for many years, if not my whole life, before I had been born again. And I never really pursued a real relationship with God other than praying occasionally to half-heartedly repent out of guilt for how I had been living. Or, I just treated God like a genie in a bottle and always just was asking for things. And I never really read the Bible, and I really just went down like another path away from God, especially back in 2020 and 2021. This was the period where I was becoming very hard-hearted to doing what I knew was right, and I'd gotten involved with a lot of bad influences and really started to act like all the people I was hanging around. I hid it from my parents and still testified as being a Christian, but I really don't believe that I ever was. I had started vaping, and I was hanging out with a lot of like drug users, and they were nice friends to me, but very much not good influences at all. And I was speaking with profanity a lot and was listening to very bad satanic music, and I had allowed myself to even like shoplift several times, and I just kept justifying it in my head, and I kept making excuses for myself, and in my head I told myself that vaping wasn't morally wrong, but it was just unhealthy, and a lot of kids did it, and it seemed fine, so what's the big deal? And I told myself that I could bring my friends to Christ. That's why God put them in my life, when like I didn't even know Him personally, and I kept telling myself that, but they were very much corrupting my view of sin, and I was just taking it less and less seriously, and they were influencing me instead of the other way around. If I had been a Christian, it should have been me helping them and not me letting them change who I was. So, and I was using God's grace as a pass to sin, and it really doesn't work that way. But I completely ignored what Romans chapter 6 says. It says, "What shall we say then, those who have died, or what shall we say then? Shall we go on sinning so that grace may increase? By no means. We are those who have died to sin. How can we live in it any longer?" I testified to being a Christian whenever I was at church and in front of my whole family, but like in front of my friends, God was not really something talked about before, and like I believed, but I didn't really discuss it much, and I kind of like closed that part of me off, and it wasn't really me. It really wasn't even who I was at that time. And I was scared of what they would think about me. And during the same time when I was going down this darker path was when like I had this like empty feeling all the time, like nothing could satisfy me whatsoever. Everything in life was just like emptiness, and I had severe depression and anxiety, and it just kept getting worse. I had this feeling all the time like nothing even was like real around me, like I was in a dream, like a trance, like I wasn't even present in my own body. And then I couldn't eat food anymore. Like I stopped being able to eat, and my self-image was also very bad, and I viewed myself like very negatively. And I tried to find all my confidence in what I thought other people thought about me, and how cool I was. And I had no solid identity in who I was at all. And I was just trying to fill that empty hole in my heart with all these friends and social life and, just empty things. And I would get obsessed with hanging out with one friend group, and then when it didn't fill me any longer, I'd move on to the next friend group, and just same cycle repeated. And the only thing that I looked forward to in life was just hanging out with friends, even though every time I did, I felt like this just evilness, because they were very bad influences, but every time I hung out with my friends, it was just bad vibes, and I sensed it, but I kind of pushed it down. I was like, oh, they're fun. So, during this time, I had also, online, I started seeing a lot of Christian videos popping up on my, TikTok feed and whatnot, and I saw how, all these, other Christians, were very much passionate about God, and they talked about how they had, so much peace and, joy from Him. But I didn't understand it, because I personally didn't know God for myself, and it convicted me, because I knew I had to change. I couldn't just keep living the way that I was. So, and yeah, I had this evil presence with me all the time, just this evil feeling that just lingered, something was wrong, something was off. And I even got to the point where I couldn't even listen to Christian music at all. It was something inside of me was screaming turn it off. I hated it. And this was the point when, hold on, my hands are not making it. This was the point when I started just crying out to God. I was fix me. I don't understand how these other people can love you so much. I don't even get it. How do people feel this way? And I kept asking God, take my depression, help me, be more like the passion-filled Christians that I had kept seeing online. And I did not enjoy going to church very much. And whenever I did go, it was just with my family. And I always felt heavily convicted at church and just out of place, like a poser. And I knew God had been speaking to me and telling me that I had to change. I couldn't just keep living the way that I was, and it was not fulfilling at all. But I just I didn't want to let go, and I was like, what will my friends think of me, and back in January last year, 2021, we started coming here to Lakeview Bible. And this was after we hadn't really gone to church much for a real long time. We went to another church off and on for months, but we didn't go very much. But so coming here was kind of new, because I hadn't gone to church for a while. But my mom had convinced me to come to youth group, and I didn't really want to, but first time I went, I made a friend, and then I ended up, coming a few more times. And then one week they talked about D-Now, and my friend asked me to come, and I was not comfortable. I was like, why would I stay overnight somewhere where I'm already uncomfortable and I barely know anyone? But my mom, I asked her, and she's like, okay, I'll sign you up right now. So she told me, she's like, okay, I'm signing you up. And I was like, okay. And then she prayed for me, and then my friend's like, yeah, I'm not going anymore. And I was like, oh. And my mom's like, oh, I already paid for you. And I'm like, well, I don't want her money to go to waste. So I was like, okay, I'll go. So I go, and I'm like, I get there. I was very uncomfortable at first, but, as time went by, I got a lot more comfortable. And the second night I was there, I remember, just this moment during the worship where I just like looked around and I just like I saw like how much the kids around me love God, and I just started thinking about all my friends and like everything I've been doing, and I just had this like moment of just like for the first time ever like just feeling like so much of God's love, and it like crushed me. Like I just like, and then I felt like so much like of His forgiveness and like grace, and I just like I started breaking down. I'm like, what's happening? Like I started for the first time like feel like I understood, you know, why these other people love God, you know, and I just like, and little did I realize that like all throughout the past several months, if not my whole life, was God preparing me for this moment, and you know, during the whole time Disciple Now at D-Now, God had slowly been like changing all of my desires towards God, and you know, all the like everything of the past just like faded away. Like I was like I forgot about it. Like all the everything. Like not really the friends, I guess. I mean, I stopped hanging out with all of them, but like just everything, like profanity, you know, all the everything. You know, I was just like, you know, it became very much not important anymore. And like this moment was like the answer to my prayer after I'd been like crying out so much, like fix me and stuff, you know. And during this moment of breaking down, I just remember I went up to pray with the youth leader. It was Sierra. Everybody's looking at her now. And she asked me, she's like, what do you want me to pray for you for? And I was like, I don't know. And I was just like crying. I didn't want to like explain, but the moment that I just like let go of everything, and I just like released it all, you know, and I like released everything, and I like repented and just like surrendered my whole life to Jesus Christ. And
Amen.
Like 2 more pages, bro. I talk a lot. Yeah, this was such a huge moment for me, and I knew that things were going to be different after that, and I just remember, this is the last page, I just remember, my focus is like, I remember like thinking about God, like in that moment, I just remember thinking about like how much grace God has for me, and like He just loved me after everything, like after I just turned my back on Him. And you know, just a small taste of His love was enough for me to just like let go of everything, like surrender everything to Jesus. And but after that day, like all of my depression and like anxiety, you know, just the emptiness and that like lingering weird like out of body feeling just like went away, and like after, you know, and it was like replaced with like true fulfillment and like joy for the first time. Like I felt like genuinely joyful for like the first time in my life, and like I quit vaping, everything. Like I haven't even had desires towards like any of that, like, and you know, I got home and I'm like, Mom and Dad, I have something to tell you. And I told them pretty much everything. I was like, yeah, Mommy, I baked. And then she's like, thanks for telling me. And then I told my dad, and he's like, there's better ways to do it. I'm like, Dad! I'm like, calm down. But, he was a lot more But, yeah, where did I leave off? And yeah, like, of course, I still have temptations for, like, things of the past occasionally, but, Jesus set me free from, like, everything. And, I don't want to go back to living like that because it was just so empty, like, and so, like, pointless. Like, I had no reason for living. And like, my life has been so, like, drastically different since I, like, finally, like, committed my life to Jesus. And I finally, like, found true joy and true, like, genuine hope for living. And, my whole identity is, rooted in Him, and without Him, like, I don't, like, what am I, I'm nothing. And the main thing I pursue in life now is just to, like, know more about God and just grow closer to Jesus, like, on a daily, pursuit. And, that took place last year in April. And, it may sound like everything has been perfectly easy since I've become a born-again Christian, but that is not true at all. But it is very much fulfilling and worth it. And, of course, I still sin. I mean, I'm a human, but, I'm not a slave to it any longer. And, who the sun sets free is free indeed. God has taught me how to feel, like, true peace in the midst of, like, any circumstances. Like, He's used pain that I've experienced, like, over time after becoming a Christian, and He's just used all of it to, like, just open my eyes about life and, like, see everything in a completely different perspective. And I'm now, like, I can, like, feel, like, true peace in, like, the middle of, like it would be like bad, like something bad will happen, but now I'm at a place where I've, like, pretty much learned to, like, trust God with all of my being, and that is essential. If you want to have a peaceful life, you gotta know God, to trust Him, and you gotta trust Him to be able to get through hard stuff, because otherwise you're gonna be like, why is God punishing me? Why is He doing this to me? It's like, no, He's allowing it, not because He hates you, but He's gonna use it, to do anything, bring other people to Himself through your pain, and then you can empathize. How do you say it?
Empathize
with people, because, pain is essential to be able to understand people. Like, otherwise, like, you're crying, I don't get you. It's like, oh, I've done that before, so I understand. But, so yeah, like, I see life in, like, completely different now. And I can see everything in a different perspective. Because, I trust God, and I know that there's always hope wherever Jesus is, like, no matter what, Like, in the middle of the storm, there's always hope. Like, He's not going to let you go. He's not going to let you fall and drown. He's going to help you every time. And, yeah, one thing I wish that I had realized before is, like, you don't have to be perfect at all, whatsoever, to come to God. You don't have to clean yourself up and I learned, like, don't treat God like a religion. Like, He's not just, oh, do this, and then I'll accept you. It's like, no, you can't be perfect. It's not possible for us to be perfect. Like, I would tell myself, like, if I just stop doing this thing, then I'll be right with God. It's like, no, what about this? Like, we value sins higher than others a lot of times, and, some sins have, like, higher consequences than others, but in reality, we're all gonna screw up, like, daily. So, you can't be right with God if you live perfectly, because you can't live perfectly. You just have to trust that Jesus already paid it all,
Amen.
And, yeah, like, just, like, I wouldn't, like, just go to him and, like, everything else will fall into place, like, how it's supposed to happen. And, you know, he will change your heart and all of your desires so that you don't even, like, desire those. Like, I used to pray, like, you know, I don't even want to follow you, God, but, like, change me so that I want to, and he did that. But, you know, he'll change your heart, like, give you a new heart and new desires, and it will set you free from, like, anything you're a slave to. And, you know, it's all the process, though. But, like, you will always find it if you truly seek him, like, with all your heart. Like, you know, just, like, pray, like, one time, like, and then, you know, people get discouraged because they don't think they hear from God back, and then, oh, I guess he's not real then. It's like, no. It takes time to, like, you know, actually know that he's there, and your prayers aren't just bouncing off the ceiling. And so, yeah, like, I've had a lot of prayers answered, like, quickly, and other times took years, but, like, he'll always answer.